Australians must learn to live with coronavirus, and keeping the borders closed until there are zero cases is unrealistic, according to a new report. Business leaders in New South Wales have combined to deliver a roadmap to reopening, which sets out an alternative plan to allow Australia to re-engage with the world. In their view, a successful reopening would require a comprehensive vaccine program, pilot programs to trial reopenings before the vaccination program is complete to support critical industries like tourism and the arts, a vaccine passport and overseas travel, improved border protection measures like rapid testing at airports, and a new quarantine system that takes into account risk using hotel quarantine for high-risk travellers from COVID hotspots and for those who refuse testing. The report says Australia must accept that it is highly unlikely that coronavirus will be eliminated. The global consensus, quote unquote, is that the virus will continue to circulate for the foreseeable future, probably in a very similar fashion to common cold viruses. The report also demands more work to combat vaccine hesitancy. Join me live now is Sky News Business Editor Ross Greenwood. Ross, good to see you once again. We've been talking about this all week because we got some vague assumptions in the budget, and we've been hearing from people like the Business Council and Dominic Perrottet, the New South Wales Treasurer, saying we can't be a hermit kingdom. We need a bit of a plan here. And in the absence of that plan, a few business leaders have come up with one.
So, yeah, they have. And indeed, the business plan is clearly to have a plan. Right now, there seems to be no plan other than the borders are closed until the middle of next year. And indeed, remember, originally they were supposed to be open the middle of this year. Then it went back to October. Now, according to the budget documents, it's the middle of next year. Now, the other interesting side of this is, as a part of the budget reaction, for this week's Business Weekend, I've gone to Joe Hockey, the former ambassador to Washington and to a former treasurer. Now, the interesting part about the lockdowns that I spoke to him about, and I said, tell me about the comparison between America and Australia. He said, look, at some point, Australians are going to suddenly come to the realisation that the rest of the world is open and that they're managing the coronavirus to live with it. And yet, if Australians are locked down, they're going to be losing opportunities, and Australians will also be losing and becoming very frustrated at the inability to travel overseas. So I think even from the government's own side, its former treasurer, former ambassador to the United States, he can sense that there will be a growing frustration coming. And I think that's what this plan is really sort of, if you like, enunciating. It's basically saying that, again, Australians have got to have a plan. They've got to be vaccinated. There must be vaccine passports. These are all pretty obvious things. Immediate rapid testing and, of course, action for those people who choose to do nothing at all.
It's really politics clashing with reality, isn't it? And this roadmap that's been put out today is by some pretty heavy hitters, including Mike Baird, former New South Wales Premier, Tom Seymour, the head of PwC. So basically, these business leaders are saying things that the politicians think they can't at the moment.
Well, that's right. But then here's a second obvious thing to be able to say. In the budget, there is a presumption in the budget that state borders will not be closed. And indeed, what you've got is the federal government saying to the state premiers, you must leave your borders open at all times so that we've got economy, we've got freedom of movement, all that type of thing. And yet, the federal borders are closed. And so there is some sort of, if you like, double standard here, that if the federal government is saying to the state governments, you must keep your borders open, and yet they've got their own borders closed because either they're not confident or indeed they're not prepared to allow coronavirus in and to manage those outbreaks if they were to occur, then that says something about Australia and the confidence of the government politically to be able to manage the coronavirus.
Yes, and meantime, we're just waiting for that plan.
And the Moderna virus vaccines to come in as well.
Yeah, indeed. We'll talk about that vaccine as well. Ross, of course, it does depend on that. Thanks so much.
No problems at all, Laura.
See you soon.